This is Natalie Lebrun.
And I'm Judy Rich. Together, we welcome you to Lead Speak, school-based SLP podcast.
Whether you're an SLP currently navigating leadership waters, an SLP who is eager to shape the future of speech-language pathology in schools, or a student who's preparing to join our profession, we welcome you all to this conversation. Hey, Judy, how's it going?
Hi, Nat. Great to be with you today.
Good. Hey, this is episode 2. I want to share a story with our listeners really quick before we get on to our first ever guest. But I am the very official audio engineer for this podcast. And last week when I was editing our materials, I noticed that my own sound quality was not super stellar. And lo and behold, I had not plugged in my microphone the way that it was supposed to. And so it left us with less than ideal audio quality. And I couldn't help but to think about something that Brene Brown says, which is an FFT. Judy, do you know what an FFT is?
No, gotta tell me.
Okay, so Brene Brown, Dare to Lead, an FFT is an effing first time or a freaking first time, whatever variation of the F word you want to use. But basically, it's the idea that we need to be brave enough and humble enough to accept the fact that maybe the first time you do something, it's not going to go as well as you hope. You will most likely mess up along the lines, and then you do it a second time and you do it better, and you do it a third time and you do it even better. So we're going to chalk up my audio recording for our first session as an FFT, which is definitely something that I really subscribe to as a coordinator over a large team of SLPs. There was a lot of things I had to do for the first time that I know that if I went back a second time, I might do differently. And if I went back a third time, I would certainly do differently again. So it's like living in that space of giving myself just a little bit of grace whenever engaging into a new task. So that's my story for the week, and I'm sticking to it. Judy, do you want to introduce our first ever guest?
I do. So here we go. Charlette McRay Green is a speech-language pathologist and board-certified specialist in child language. She has served in leadership positions since 2008 and currently is the executive director of special education in the Cherokee County School District in Georgia. Prior to being named executive director, she served as an education program specialist for the Georgia Department of Education, supervisor of special education, and then director of special education for Cherokee County School District. Charlette is an award-winning and notable leader. Listen to some of her accomplishments. In 2023, she was given the Phil Pickens Parent Mentor Leadership Award. Also in 2023, named as Distinguished Alumni, College of Communication and Information from Florida State University. 2014, named as a Fellow of the American Speech-Language Hearing Association. 2013, named Professional of the Year, Georgia Administrators in Special Education. And in 2012, Outstanding New Special Education Administrator of the Year, Georgia Administrators of Special Education. Charlette engages in volunteer leadership in various advisory boards and association committees. She served on the board of directors of the Georgia Association of Educational Leaders from 2016 to 2018 and was president of the Georgia Council of Administrators of Special Education in 2018. Charlotte's mission statement is empowering educators to support students with disabilities in reaching their post-secondary goals through strong visioning, solid communication skills, positive attitude, and integrity. Welcome, Charlette. We are so happy you're with us today and thrilled that you are our first guest in Season 1 of Lead Speak. Let's jump right into it. Talk to us about your journey to leadership.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. When I listen to the person that you described, it's hard to believe because inside I still feel 22. So it's hard to believe that I've been able to, have that list of accomplishments. And I have to tell you that a lot of that comes from, being curious and putting yourself in a position to where you have a strong network of folks that just push you to do things you never thought you could do. So I'm not here by myself. I'm just pliable and moldable. And if someone sees something in me, I am smart enough to kind of take someone else's visioning and add my taste to it. So I think you talked a little bit about my journey in leadership, but I have to say I started out as a contract school-based SLP, and that's a different story for a different day. But I learned a lot, and the first thing I learned is absolutely I needed to work for a school district because when it was time to pay taxes, that was an eye-opening experience, but a different podcast, not this podcast, right? So my that was my CF year. And then my second year, I actually worked directly for a school district in Fayette County, Georgia, and spent a couple years there getting my feet wet, understanding what my role was as an SLP in the schools. And then I'm just a nosy person by nature, or maybe a more professional way to say it is I'm curious. So I want to know how things work. I want to know what people over there are doing and how that impacts me and how I impact their work. And through that curiosity, I started learning more about the Department of Special Education at my elementary school where I was working as a whole, and started learning more about IDEA and on the broader scope, not just in the silo of a speech language pathologist in the schools. So started learning about reading and started learning about being an LEA and a local education advisor, one of the required members of an IEP team, and thought to myself, I can do that. There's some things that I need to learn, of course, to broaden my knowledge base, but I thought I'm curious enough, I can figure that out. So I had the support of my principal there who made sure to give me the professional development and the encouragement to learn the role, participated in a series of professional development and on the job modeling and training through others. And so the next year became the department chair for that school district, and actually followed my principal to a brand new school building where she was named the principal there in Fayette County. So fast forward a couple of years, and I had this sort of penciled out plan for what I wanted to accomplish in my career. And I thought maybe after 10 years of being a school-based SLP, I would like to see if I might, be able to take my influence to the state level. And at about 5 years into my role, a position became available, and some of those positions, they are hard. It's hard to kind of time when those positions will become available. So I remember printing out the job description at the time, and I showed it to my husband, who is always my biggest fan. No matter what it is that I said I thought I could do, he always said yes, absolutely. But then he's supposed to say that, right? Yeah, he's supposed to say that. So then I put a copy of it on my principal's desk and just walked away. The next thing I know, I get the copy of the job description with a "See Me" on it in my mailbox. And so I don't know if any of you have ever gotten a "See Me," but "See Me's" typically are not are not good things, right? So I kind of slinked around the corner into her office, and she said, "So when are you going?" And I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "You can do this in your sleep. When are you filling out the application, and what do I need to do?" So again, I go back to being in a position to where I was curious, where I surrounded myself by people that I thought were empowering and encouraging, and that I trusted, where I would listen to the advice that they would provide me. And when I needed to be pushed, I allowed myself to be pushed, and I learned from those experiences. So left and went to work for the Georgia Department of Education and learned an awful lot. But I have to tell you, what I thought the job was and what it actually was is not the same. Isn't that how it usually works out, right? So I just thought I was going to be Queen Bee speech therapist for the entire state of Georgia. And it did not work out just like that, right? So that was part of my job. I had to support SLPs in the state of Georgia, understanding what our requirements were under, IDEA, and also in how the state of Georgia implemented its regulations and its rules and expectations. So yeah, we did that. I had a lot of success, a lot of networking. I got to travel the state, meeting lots of SLPs all across the state, sort of solidifying what Georgia's expectations were and providing some very necessary professional development. We implemented the Georgia SLP and Kindergarten Teacher Project, where we were collaborating in kindergarten classrooms. It was a lot of fun, and I still have some very close friends that I developed who helped me to implement those trainings across the state. So, really excited about that. But the other piece of my job that became where kind of support where I landed today was that I was responsible for supporting an area of the state, the special ed directors in an area of the state. So I had Northwest Georgia. So that's everywhere from Paulding County all the way up to the Tennessee line. And so my responsibility was to sort of liaise between the Georgia Department of Education and the special ed directors in that part of the state, and then to support those special ed directors through their compliance monitoring and, support and bring back feedback from them, and then take important information from the DOE. And at that time, that was before a lot of the Zoom and Teams. So those meetings, I had to actually go and drive to that part of the state and spend time, and it was really awesome. And I got to see how hardworking special ed directors were. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't ever want that job. That is the hardest job on the planet. Why would anybody want on purpose to do that job? And, but I just remember learning from them and learning that, there are a lot of things that you have control over, but there are a lot more that you don't necessarily have a control over, but you have to figure it out and you have to build a strong team. And so each of the opportunities that I had to learn, I sort of picked up little tidbits that I carry with me today. And so after being at the Department of Education for a while, I had my son, and still I was traveling the state. And my son took his first steps with his dad, and his dad did not record it. Did not record it. No recording, no picture, nothing. And so at that point, I thought, I probably need to be closer to home so that I could catch these little milestones, because he's an only, and we weren't going to do this again, and he wasn't going to take his first steps again. And so that became important for us. And so because of my networking and working across the state, I had another person that I'd worked with and who was sort of a mentor to me, who suggested that I actually interview for the supervisor position in Cherokee County for special education. And the rest is history. So I've been in Cherokee County since 2008. Started as supervisor, and then became director, and then became executive director of special education in 504. So that's a long way to say that, special education became my blood through the passion of speech and language and supporting and learning from others.
That's awesome. I wish I would have taken a tally, because I'm taking some notes as you're talking. I wish I would take a tally of how many times the word networking came up, and also just mentioning growing out a network of people or building relationships with people. I think that's like one of the main things when I talk to my friends or colleagues in the space. It's like, do you even own business cards, right? Like, go to Vistaprint, spend $20, have a deck of business cards, because you never know who you'll meet that can maybe open the next the next door for you that you haven't considered before. But I also understand, like, networking is not supernatural to everybody. It's definitely like a muscle that you have to exercise. Um, what's something that you would suggest when it comes to networking to somebody who may not feel comfortable about handing out that business card just like that?
But as an introvert who acts or plays at being an extrovert, I can absolutely empathize with that. And I know Judy is shaking her head, going, "There is no way Charlotte is an introvert." Absolutely, I am. Absolutely, I am. I am one of those people that requires downtime and requires my time away in order to be this extrovert or to pretend to be this extrovert. And so, what I would say is practice makes perfect. Um, Phoning a friend, having a buddy to help you ease into those settings are very important. And just finding ways to be in connection and in fellowship. Even if you're not saying a lot, you are in the right location. And if you're curious and pliable, you will find yourself ending up in places that you never thought that could use your expertise or that you can learn from because you were just in the room when decisions or big ideas are happening.
Well, Charlotte, we're going to call you an outgoing introvert, if that's you. It sounds a little bit like an oxymoron, but it may capture a little bit of who you are. Um, Thinking about leadership, what 3 or 4 leadership attitudes are important to you? I know I heard you say curiosity almost as many times as I heard you say network. I also heard you say that you were surrounded by people that you could trust and who grew you and mentored you and gave you opportunity. But as you were growing and learning from these strong educators around you, these powerhouse educators around you, what attitudes did you either observe in them or did you nurture in yourself relative to leadership?
Sure. I think if I had to narrow it down to just three attributes or three words, I would say that I am passionate about empowering others because I was poured into and I was empowered. I am also passionate about integrity and doing what you say you're going to do and having those honest conversations because that was what was done for me and it's helped me to grow. And then, you can't trust folks if they have. If there's no mutual trust and integrity and it's not based on truth. So I would say empowering others and having integrity and establishing trust and being trustworthy. Those are all very important. I think that sometimes in leadership we might have had experiences where there are folks that don't envision being having integrity or being trustworthy, and those situations sometimes don't always work out the best. And so, for me, um, I think being passionate and empowering others, having integrity, and being trustworthy are essential, no matter what type of leader and what type of setting you're in.
That makes a lot of sense. I think if you're sharing space and you're working on difficult topics or difficult projects, and you find yourself surrounded by people who don't share that high level of professionalism and excellence, then you can't be your best self. And then you also can't, I feel like I can't be vulnerable in that space. I can't take risks because I don't know what that other person is going to do, where they might impact my ability of being professional.
Oh my goodness, Natalie, you bring up an important comment, and as a Black woman, having an opportunity in leadership to surround yourself with people that have integrity and that you can trust so that you can be vulnerable and speak to your lived experience is essential. And I have benefited from having that. Now, not everyone in my circle has been that way. But I have definitely reaped the benefits of having some folks to support me along the journey that I could authentically tell my story to. And that's essential. And so, again, I learned from that and try with my staff to create what we call a brave space, not a safe space, but a brave space. And for me, a brave space is, let me back up. Some of my people describe me as a crazy visionary. And so let me describe. So crazy visionary is that I have lots of great ideas. I'm that home run hitter, right? I can come up with a great idea, but running those bases and coming up with the little details is not necessarily my strong suit. So when I am building a team, I know that. So I am trying to build my team with people that are knowledgeable and experienced, but they're also detail oriented and they understand the running the bases so that we are a strong team together, right? I don't need 12 visionaries on the team because we will sit and pontificate and come up with great ideas, but actually, will we get it all done? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows, right? So we've got to have some of both of them. So being a visionary, I think, sort of helps folks understand what your thoughts are. But I wanted to create a brave space where people can say, okay, so yeah, Charlotte, that's cool. But in order to get there, we have to do these things. And Charlotte, also, let me remind you that you also have us doing these things. So can you help us set some priorities? And can you help us sort of map out, is this a 30-day project or is this something you need to be done right now? And so the brave space for us is, okay, I need that information. Don't have me walking around with broccoli in my teeth. If you do not think that this is a good idea, let's talk about it and let's figure out if it's important and we all agree it needs to happen. How can we make it happen? And so that brave space is that consensus, that time together where we can be honest with each other. And then we build consensus and we walk out and whatever the consensus is, we're on it together.
We should make a sticker with that. No broccoli in my teeth.
Absolutely not.
Put that on my water bottle. Okay, so on the flip side of Judy's question is, what was the hardest thing, or what is the hardest thing about being a leader in these spaces, given your really experienced background, very diverse background? Like, what remains difficult for you?
Sure, pacing. Again, going back to that home run hitting kind of person, I can look at data and I can look at where we are and see where we need to go. But sometimes pacing can be a bit frustrating for me because, you can come up with an idea and have a plan for what needs to happen next. But if you're the only one running in the race, and you have nobody carrying the load with you because either the timing isn't right, you don't have sufficient buy-in, or everybody's doing the 12 other projects you have them working on. You can't do it by yourself. And so you have to take folks with you. When I was learning to drive, one of the few times my mother went in the car with me to drive, because that was not the best, right? Uh, we were sitting at a stoplight and the light turned green and I went to put my foot on the gas to go. And my mother put her hand across my chest and she said, wait a minute, you're the first line here. Look left, right, and make sure. I said, the light is green. I had the right way to go. And she says, okay, do you want to be dead right? That continues to resonate with me for the rest of my life because, yes, I had the right to go, right? The ideas that I might have based on the data, based on the feedback, might be the right thing to do. But being dead right means, or could mean, that I'm out there by myself and it could fall flat because the timing might not be right. So I don't necessarily like being dead right. I just want to be right and I want people to go with me.
So I really like what you said, Charlotte, about do you want to be dead right? And I'm going to cross stitch that or get that framed, put it on my wall. And I need to know, I need to give credit to your mom for that quote because it's a great one. Let me ask you about your team. I can tell you're a relational leader. It's really important to you. Describe your team to us and talk about how you measure success with your team at the end of each year to say, ooh, this was a good year. We got a lot done.
We all have our mid-year and our annual evaluation, if you're talking about the individual folks and, the personnel or the human resources side of it. So that's already embedded. But if we were to actually talk about, and I hate to say this, but the most meaningful way to measure success, to me, it's whether or not the schools felt supported. It's whether or not the school staff, the administrators, the teachers, the SLPs, the OTs, and the PTs, they felt that they had what they needed from us to be able to perform the great work that they have to do to support students in reaching their best potential. And so we have different ways of trying to gather that feedback. We have some informal and some formal surveys after different types of professional development or school-based support that we will push out. We have coaching opportunities and feedback sessions and then after those we would solicit feedback. There are opportunities where I might be at a school and I'll ask an administrator. She'll tell me about this particular staff person and whether or not they were responsive and did they provide you what you needed. And then, asking the question, what else do you need? Always being open to hearing that, yeah, we'll take that, but we also need this. And, this was a whole and being responsive as we can to that. We're in the customer service business. Yes, we're in education, but it is absolutely customer service. We need to be responsive. We need to be empathetic and we need to be solution minded and focused. And we need to be concerned about perception. And, that's a hard pill to swallow, and I work through that with, as we need to, you might hear, well, that I didn't intend for them to feel slighted in that way, or that was not my intention. And, that the brave conversation is, okay, I hear you. But what still remains is it is the perception, and you are in the customer service field. So I need you to be reflective to think moving forward, what can we do differently to prevent this same thing from happening in the future?
Well, perception is reality, right? So that's
Absolutely. It's
I
someone's reality.
someone's reality somewhere. Hey,
Right.
Judy, are we ready for our last 4? Oh, yeah, not 5, 4. Let's do 4 instead of 5. Let's do that. So, Charlotte, what are 3 of your forever favorite songs?
I love 90s R&B, but if I had to say 3 songs, it would be Rock With You by Michael Jackson, Talking to the Moon, Bruno Mars, You Ought to Be With Me, Al Green, and then I love Soulmate by Lizzo.
Love. What a fun playlist. I love it. Love it. So what's on your nightstand right now?
Okay, so I'm a reader. That's what settles me. But I'm a weird reader. So I have a Kindle, I have Audible, and then I have to have a hard book. So I have 3 books going at the same time usually. So right now on Audible, I'm listening to If You Tell by Greg Olson. It's a true story, kind of a weird story. And then the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois is a family history saga. I'm reading that on my Kindle. And then Time's Undoing is a thriller, a historical fiction I'm reading in hardcover.
Awesome. Who brings you joy?
So my family, my son, my husband, they bring me joy. And then I have 2 crazy Boston Terriers. They're pretty fun too, bring me
For
joy.
babies and actual babies or big babies.
Yeah, the color purple
Mm.
puts me at ease too. Not the movie necessarily, the
Oh, The
color
Color
purple
Purple. I was
itself.
like,
That's
man,
my
that's a
favorite
great
color.
movie.
No, that color purple, like all shades, the deeper the better. I love the color purple. Of course, reading and fitness, and I love my Peloton. So those things bring me joy.
Love, love, love. That's awesome. Okay, last question for you. What is leadership to you in one word?
Mm, I don't have just one
I know it's
word.
hard. You
Maybe,
gotta stretch.
yeah, em- empower.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think that might be a theme. That might be a theme
I
for
think
me.
so. I think that again, the number of times you said empower today, would definitely qualify for being a good catch-all. And the reason why we do this, I think it's really important. Like I- I've taken 2 pages worth of notes in my notebook about everything we said today. And I think what's really important for me selfishly is, your experience and what you're sharing with us is so incredibly helpful and rich. And at the same time, though, we want to be able to bring the human side out of all the leaders that we're bringing to this podcast. And at the end of the day, like, we all have favorite music. We all have stuff on our nightstand. We all find joy in others. And then we also all define leadership in our own ways. So I think that's why it's so important to spend a little bit of time here to show to people that, yes, you can be an amazing leader and change maker, and also have 3 sets of books on your nightstand at the same time. So appreciate you sharing that with us. Judy, do you want to wrap us up?
Well, this has been a fun conversation, Charlotte McRay Green. Thank you so much for taking the time to share yourself with us. The phrase that I have for you is outgoing introvert. Outgoing introvert is who we met today. But thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you the next time around with our next guest on Lead Speak.
Hey everyone, it's Natalie. We'd love to hear your reflections and connections from today's episode with Charlotte. Send us a brief recording of your voice via Facebook Messenger to share with us what resonated with you, what questions you may have, and how you plan on taking some actions from what you've learned today. On the Facebook website, go to the search function and type in Lead Speak Podcast to find our page. Then click on Follow to be able to send us a voice recording via Messenger. In your recording, be sure to tell us your name, your current role, and where you're from. We'd love to feature your thoughts and connections from today's conversation on our next episode. We look forward to hearing from you. Next time on Lead Speak, we will be chatting with Joanne Wishman on her experience serving in a variety of formal and informal leadership roles throughout the state of Texas. Most recently, Joanna was the Executive Director of Special Education for Grapevine Colleyville Independent School District, and currently continues to serve on the Public School Advisory Joint Committee between Texas Speech-Language Hearing Association and the Texas Council for Special Education Administrators. Until then, take care.